everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I decided that I would show you guys how to make Mithai. Now this video is a little more special because it's going to be a collaboration video with Reshmi over a taste of Trini. If you guys want to see how to make some amazing Trini food, go ahead and check out her channel. I will have the video link of her Mithai recipe in my description box down below as well as right up here in this video. I know that the Diwali season is coming up very soon and a lot of people are looking for different sweets to make. So I hope with me posting this recipe, it makes your Diwali that much sweeter. In order to make my Mithai, what I'm going to need is some all-purpose flour. I'm going to need some carnation milk or evaporated milk. Now, if you did not want to use the canned milk, you could go ahead and use regular whole milk straight out of the gallon jug. That would be perfectly fine. Just make sure that it comes to room temperature and it's not too cold. I also have some freshly grated coconut, and I did post a video a while back talking about how to open the coconuts and grate them yourself. I really recommend that you use freshly grated coconut for this because I feel like the prepackaged coconut that's sold in the grocery stores does not give the same taste that the fresh one does. The fresh one also gives a lot of moisture to your Mithai, so you want to make sure and try to get the fresh one here. I also have some unsalted butter that I've gone ahead and I've just cubed up here. I have some freshly ground nutmeg, and this equals about a whole ball of nutmeg that I grated into this little bowl here. I also have some baking powders to give my Mithai a little bit of a rise, and this is my secret weapon. I have some custard powder here. Now, what this custard powder is going to do is give my Mithai a really nice rich flavor, and it also makes the end product a little softer. I don't know if you guys have ever been to somebody's house and they make Mithai and you eat it and it's like hard on the inside. It's all in the way that you mix the dough, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that so you have a really nice soft product in the end. And using the custard powder is going to give it a great taste and help with the texture. Now, in order to make the sugar syrup, what you're going to need is some sugar and some water. Now, the proportion of sugar to water that I'm using is 3 parts sugar to 1 part water. So I'm using 3 cups of sugar and 1 cup of water. The first step in making your Mithai is to go ahead and make your dough. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to add in all of my baking powder first. And then what you're going to want to do is add in all of your butter. Now, this may look like a lot of butter, but I'm telling you it is not. Because if you do not add enough butter, then the Mithai is not going to have enough fat in it and it's going to come out dry and tough in the end. So you want to make sure and add enough butter. So what I'm doing here is I am just rubbing the butter into the flour or mixing the butter into the flour. I'm basically going to mix it until it gets really crumbly and all of that flour is coated with the butter. I've gone ahead and I've mixed in all of my butter, and you guys are going to see that it's nice and flaky and it's well incorporated. You're going to see the whole mixture gets nice and crumbly. So the next step is to add in all of your nutmeg. Now, a little word about the nutmeg here. The traditional spice to use in Mithai is anise seeds. And basically what the anise seeds do is they give it a little bit of a licoricey flavor. Now, I like the taste of the anise seeds, but a lot of my family do not like the taste. So my aunts showed me to use nutmeg inside, and it really does give it a great taste, and you still get that Mithai taste that it's known for. So there's no difference really in that. It's just that the spices are, you know, a little different. And everybody makes their Mithai differently. I've seen people put in a whole bunch of different spices like cardamom and ginger and cinnamon and things like that, but I like to keep it simple and, you know, more to the traditional side. So the next step is to add in all of your coconut. And you want to make sure to add in enough coconut because, as you all may know, coconut has its own milk and it has its own fat. So the more coconut you add in, the more moisture it adds to your Mithai. I'm not saying to add a lot of coconut. You should really just follow the recommended amount that I put in the description box below, and I find that this amount of coconut that I'm adding gives a perfect texture to your Mithai. And once you get that properly incorporated, you're going to go ahead and add in your custard powder. This custard powder is going to give it a really nice richness, and it really adds something different to the Mithai. A lot of people don't know about the custard powder, so you know, I'm sharing my secret to you guys here. So once that's properly incorporated, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add in our milk. Now remember, you want to add a little bit of milk at a time because you do not want this dough to be too soft. You want just the right texture. So you're going to want it to be on the firmer side. So that's why I'm adding in milk a little bit at a time. So you just want to keep mixing your dough, and you want to scrape down the sides and get any of those dry bits off and just incorporate them into the one big ball that you've created. Now, mithai, the dough, you really do not want to knead it too much. You just want to knead it until it all comes together. And, you know, it's pretty much smooth, but you don't want to over knead it like you're making bread, or else the end product is going to be tough. So, I'm almost here. And I'm just scraping down the sides as I'm going, so this way all of that can be incorporated. And basically, done now. And you're going to get one big ball out of it. So what you're going to want to do with this right here is you're going to want to leave it in your bowl, and you're going to cover it with a damp paper towel or a tea cloth or something like that. And then you're going to let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. I allowed my dough to rest for exactly 10 minutes. And what I have here is some dry flour to help me roll out my dough. I have my rolling pin, and I have a pizza cutter. Now, the pizza cutter is a great way to go ahead and cut your mithai pieces. And if you do not have one of these, then you could go ahead and use a knife. They both will work, give you the same effect. And what I did was I took my dough and I divided them into 4 balls. And the reason why I did this is because I like to do my mithai in batches. So what I'll do is I'll roll out one ball, I will cut up this one ball, and I will fry this one ball. Now, depending on how big of a pan you use, you might have to do one ball within 2 batches, or you could do this one ball in one whole batch. Now, my pan is big enough to where I feel that this will be able to just do one batch. But if you were using a smaller pan, of course, then you would go ahead and split them. And the reason for that is because you do not want your pan to get overcrowded and for the oil to get cold in the pot. Because if it does that, then your mithai is going to start to soak up the oil and it's going to get very soggy. So what you want to do is you just want to flatten it out. And I do not like to use too much flour on it, because when it does that, you tend to feel the flour when it comes out of the oil. And all of that flour will sink to the bottom of the oil and it's going to start to burn. So what I'm doing is I'm just rolling out my mithai. And I like to make my mithai about a ½ inch thick. Some people will do it even thicker, some people will do it thinner. It really depends on the household you come from, or just the way that you were taught to make it. So I'm almost there. And my recommendation is not making it too thin, because if it gets too thin, then they tend to get air bubbles inside, and then when you toss them in the sugar syrup, they're going to fall apart on you. So you want to make them, you know, about a ½ inch thick, so this way they're not too thick nor too thin. So this is about right for me. It's about a ½ inch thick there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my pizza cutter. We're going to go ahead and cut pieces. Once you cut the dough that you rolled out into strips, what you're going to want to do is go ahead with your pizza cutter and you're going to cut these triangle shapes, or you can go ahead and cut diagonally. It's really up to you. These are very rustic. They're not meant to be a certain shape. It's really however you cut them and however they come out. My oil is heated at this point, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start grabbing some of the pieces of the mithai, and you want to drop them in. Now you're going to see that they're going to start to sizzle at the bottom, and that's exactly what you want. So you want to keep adding, and as I said before, depending on the size of your pan, that's how much you'll have to gauge how much of the dough that you put in. You're going to want to keep turning your mithai pieces around so this way they get a nice golden brown color on all sides. You don't want to leave them just sitting there on one side, or else the bottom is going to be very brown and then the top is still going to be a little soft and white on the top. I just pulled my first batch out of the oil, and you're going to see that they're nice and golden brown all around, and the coating is nice and even all around the sides. Once you finish frying all of your mithai, it's time to go ahead and make the sugar syrup to coat the outside of them. So I have my pot on right here, and I'm going to add in all of my water. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is add in all of the sugar. Now, the sugar syrup is going to take about 10 minutes to boil. That's how long it usually takes for me. And you want to keep stirring every so often so this way it doesn't burn or catch at the bottom. It's been exactly 10 minutes now, and it looks like my sugar syrup is done. You can tell that it's done by all of the little bubbles that start to form at the top, and also the sides of the pot start to crystallize little. But what I like to do to test out my sugar syrup to make sure that it's done is go ahead and grab a little bowl and grab about 2 to 3 of my mithais and put them in that bowl and toss it in a little bit of the sugar syrup. I keep tossing it to see if the sugar syrup starts to form a nice crystallized coating over the top, and if it does in the bowl, then I know it's done for sure. This is just the way that I like to do it, but if you guys see the little crystallized formations on the side of your pot, then you'll also know that it's done. So at this point, I can see that it's forming a little shell over my mithai, so I'm going to go ahead and toss the rest of the batch in my sugar syrup. I've gone ahead and I've poured all of my sugar syrup on top of the mithai. And what you want to do is you want to work very fast at this point because the sugar syrup is going to get really hard on you really quick. So what you want to do is you want to keep stirring until a nice thick sugary coating forms over all of your mithai. And you're going to keep stirring until it gets very dry and it's no longer wet. Now, as you guys can see, I transferred all of my mithai into a very large bowl to do this. The reason for this is because if it was in a smaller bowl and it was choked up, then the spoon would tend to break up the mithai and you wouldn't have those nice big pieces of mithai anymore. So you just want to be careful of that while you're doing this step. Alright everyone, here's the finished product. As you guys can see, the outside of the mithai are really nice and evenly coated in that thick sugary syrup, and they're ready to be eaten. You guys are going to notice that the outsides are nice and crispy and hard, and then when you break them open, as I'm going to do soon, you're going to notice that they're very flaky and they're soft on the inside. So I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you can see when I do post new videos. Also, feel free to comment down below on what you guys would like me to make next. Also, I wanted to mention again that this was a collaboration video with Reshmi over a taste of Trini, so go ahead and check out her version of Mithai that I will have the link for in my description box down below. Once again, thanks for watching everyone.